Hello there, Seraphim17 once again. This is my Darksiders 2 Apocalyptic difficulty video walkthrough. This is the Black Stone and the final dungeon of the game. So once we've finished speaking to the guy from LA Noire and almost every single television series that exists, we're going to be moving through another one of the portals into the next section of the game. And you know what really pisses me off, guys? When people try and tell me how to pronounce things. You know what pisses me off most? Is when they're fucking wrong and they're trying to tell me to pronounce it their way. One of those things that definitely a pet peeve of mine. And it's in reference to Dark Souls, which has nothing to do with this video, but I'm going to mention it anyway because it's on my mind. Firstly, the second katana on the game does not have a capitalized first letter for its name. So Lito, if you want to call it Lito, is fine, but it's not capitalized, so the L could quite possibly be an I. So when I call it an Iato, it's just me being kind of fancy with the pronunciation. Nothing else. You know, I'm not bringing in phonetics into this, I'm just going balls out with the English language. You know, it's very subjective because every other weapon has a capitalized beginning. That weapon doesn't, so to me, it's an I. It will never be an L, and that's just how it works. But then to further attack the way I speak by saying I pronounce the word indictment wrong because it's supposed to be indicted just proves you are a fucking moron who has no understanding of the basics of the English language. And I should have already known this, which I said twice, and I do apologise, I have been drinking. But you would have already known this if you'd put the right grammatical yaw in your fucking sentence, but instead you put the wrong one. So that told me everything, you know. Ugh, I don't even know why I mentioned it. Guy's a douche. Please don't do that, folks. It does nothing. It adds nothing. You know, you're not saving somebody through bad pronunciation. If it's grammatically wrong, if the spelling is wrong, feel free to share because that helps somebody learn. But if you're trying to tell people the wrong pronunciation because you like yours, you're just a fucking retard. I would never force my pronunciations on people. They're mine. That's the point. They're not yours. But this is Darksiders 2, and as you can see, I'm using the clone splitting ability, which this guide has been going for so long I forgot the name of. So if you're looking for high levels of fidelity, you're just not going to get it. But there is a dialogue with that dude that I just cut out. That is the next mission, and we're now following to Shadow's Edge. So this place looks great, man. You know, aesthetically, I think this place looks amazing. And it's a fun part of the game because it's, you know, you're getting close towards the end. You know there's a couple more puzzles left to go. There's a couple of tough combat sections, and there's also one hell of a boss fight. The boss fight coming up is harder than the last boss. So if you're wondering to yourself, you know, when is the line where I have passed the hardest part in the game, the hardest part in the game is the boss coming up. Because I don't think anything else even comes close to how hard he is. And that's not to say that he's impossible. It's not to say that he's all that challenging, but compared to everything else, if you're going to struggle on any area of this game, it's going to be on the boss we're about to kill. And if you're wondering why I'm running around this bug and not doing anything, I'm actually pressing the grab button. I think it's B. And the detection on those kind of God of War-esque kill commands is nowhere near as good as God of War. And I don't know why. You know, you can blame it on bad programming, you can blame it on a game not being tested enough. It might just be one of those things that happens, which is always a shame, but is always there. So Darksiders being the game that it is, you've always got your map in the lower right, you've always got the tools that you need to pursue the next area, and it's not, there's nothing really needed to be said in this guide, and it always brings me back to a conversation I have quite a lot on these walkthroughs. A lot of people judge a walkthrough by the contents of the commentary. They seem to think if you keep on topic the entire time, it's a better guide. But why do I have to tell you how to do the things that are taking place in the video? You know, the stuff in the video should be secondary to what I'm telling you. If I have any strategies, if I have anything I think you need to know, any observations I learnt while playing, I try to share them as best as I can. But when it's a game where I don't struggle with it, how the fuck am I supposed to tell you those kind of insights when I didn't have them? And then for somebody to judge this negatively based on the fact that I'm not sharing those kind of things, or I'm not talking about smashing all the pots, smash the pots, press the X button, it just makes me wonder how disabled are these people that they need every piece of information spoon-fed to them. And it just brings me to the conclusion that the reason why the academic level of almost every country is declining is because these dumb motherfuckers are giving birth to extra kids and, not giving them an impetus on schooling or learning or logic, and it's just lowering the grade average for everybody. And this is not me trying to be overly judgmental or saying that I am in some way better than these people. It's just a case of sometimes less is more, Like, they say a picture is worth 1,000 words. A video should be worth significantly more because I'm showing you what to do. And it just baffles me that people can say hateful things on the internet, can attack the walkthroughs, can say that they're terrible just because I'm not telling them of every single fucking thing that is happening on the screen. And the worst part about it is it's me highlighting perhaps 1% of the 99% or the 100% of people that watch the video, and the rest 99% are saying very positive and interesting and well worthwhile things. And I don't isolate those and I don't discuss those because those people are nice. They don't need positive reaffirmation. They've already got that. It's the negative assholes that seem to pull all the attention, and I think that sucks. And I'm going to try, if I can, to moderate how much I entertain the trolls, because there is a saying, and I'm using a lot of sayings, don't feed them. And it's true. It's really true. But this guy here is a Legion champion, and he's pretty tough. He gets his life back, and I don't know why. I'm not too sure what it is about this enemy, but it must be akin to the behemoths if you ever played Final Fantasy in the old games, where if you beat the behemoths for so long, he'd get all his life back and he'd go berserk and he'd start attacking you, and eventually he'd do meteor. So I think these are similar to that. But my strategy is simple. At this point you have the weapons to damage race most enemies on this game. Use the Reaper moves or the Wicked Weave moves or whatever the hell I've been calling them throughout this guide. The moves where you finish them with the Reaper mode, so they do extra damage. If you're low on life, make sure if you're following my strategy that you either use a potion or you go into the untouchable mode and you get those extra criticals on the siphon weapons to get your life back. And you'll notice my life's coming back a load. I'm just spamming the arachnid move to get that stuff back, and we're back in the game. It's one-on-one, we've killed the flunkies, it's just me and this guy. That is the Reaper combo I was mentioning just then. And I'm just going to keep chaining it. Another guy's just turned up there, so just be ever so aware of your surroundings. And if you get into a spot of bother, feel free to use your Reaper mode. Because there's one thing that I've not done in this guide, and I intentionally did it so that I could give you the most honest representation of how the level's played. And that is, at any moment, you can warp away from a dungeon. And if you do this, you can go and do side quests, you can go to shops, you can buy stock, you can build up Reaper mode again, you can do a lot of things. So feasibly, if you're having trouble at any point in the game and you've got Reaper mode, you can use it to get past, and instead of continuing the dungeon, you can warp away, go and build it back up on filler enemies, and then come back and have that win button again. And what this does is, because you have such freedom to escape dungeons and there's no ramifications for doing it, it puts you into a position of power where if you're low on potions, go grab some potions from a shop. If you're low on Reaper mode, go build it up. If you're low on levels, go level a little bit, come back to exactly where you were and destroy the enemies that were destroying you. It's a really weird thing about this game that I actually didn't enjoy. Because on the original Darksiders, I don't think there was a level. There could have been, and I'm misremembering, but I don't think there was. I think it was just a difficulty curve. It was a progression. And I prefer those kind of games because one of the things that really bugs me the most about any kind of level-driven experience is there will come a point where you will hit an enemy or an area or an encounter, whatever you want to call it, where you are not feasibly strong enough to fight it. You are not physically strong enough. You don't have the levels to do it. And it doesn't mean it can't be done, because even if you're taking off 7 damage, you can still do 7,000 damage if you're patient and skilled enough. But at that point, the game is playing you. It's not fun at that point. It's it might be a show of excellence and a show of mastery, but a game such as this, where the mastery is very little because the combos themselves are simple, there's not many of them, the responsiveness of the game is not great, it's definitely passable and playable and a very fun experience, but when you compare it to a game like God of War or Devil May Cry or Ninja Gaiden, it just doesn't have the same level of fidelity when it comes to any of it, because it's not as good. You know, it's more ambitious in a lot of ways, but it's not as good. And right there I just fuck up a jump and I decide to not do it. So I come over here instead and we've got another fight with a Legion soldier. And this enemy here is well, perhaps not this one because this might be a smaller one, but these Legion guys are a lot more challenging than some of the enemies you've been fighting. So that last encounter we just came from, it's not easy. Like on the video you noticed I was taking a lot of damage. I mean sure I didn't use potions and stuff or Reaper mode, but it's still a legitimate threat. You know, it's a danger, and you need to be aware of that, because you can die on this game, and if you're playing on, I don't remember the name of it, is it hardcore mode, or like Armageddon mode or something? If you're playing on the hardest difficulty, which is only hard because there's no checkpoints, it's if you die, you're gone, effectively. And there's a couple of moments in this game where, you know I would die, so I would never play it on that difficulty, because that's not fun to me. And if you're new to the channel, you'll probably not be aware of my opinions on the checkpoint shenanigans, but to sum it up in as quiet of a consensus as I can, any game that moderates checkpoints to a certain degree to artificially increase difficulty is not my idea of a good game. I just don't think it is. And I blame Dead Space 2, as much as I think that game is fantastic. It has started this trend of when you die, you go back to the beginning of the game. And it's a hark back to the old school gaming of the good old golden days back in the arcade where you put your credits in and you played Ghost and Goblins. But the difference is, those games were shorter, man. They weren't easier. They were hard as balls, and you need to play them a lot to get even remotely competent. But they weren't 50-hour RPGs. And that's where the dissonance happens, because it's okay saying if I die, the penalty is I go from the start. There's a difference between a game that's 2 hours long and a game that's 20 hours long. And I just don't think it translates at all, and I don't understand it. But if I understood everything, it would be pointless to be alive, so, there's got to be some things that baffle me, because being bewildered is part of living, and it's a pretty fun notion at times. It's just completely... But some good news for people that have been a fan of the channel for a long time, which doesn't mean shit to the people that are watching this just for the sake of the gameplay. And a lot of people complain about that, but fuck. I view this channel as a package, and if you don't enjoy that, you don't have to watch. There's plenty of things on YouTube you could be watching and enjoying yourself. You don't have to poison the well. There's absolutely no point. But I've just finished recording a podcast with the Time Cop crew. So anybody that really enjoys the Time Cop podcast, we've got another one coming, and perhaps more in the future. It's pretty optimistic stuff, and it was fun to do, which is always good. And at this moment in time, I'm doing a little bit of backtracking. As it seems, when I went down there, it's probably just for a chest. Probably just for some miscellaneous questing. And I'm going to be using the portal gun, which I can't remember the name of, to do some ledge swapping. And one thing I remember about this dungeon is when you enter it, it's a little bit intimidating and it feels like it's going to go on forever, but it turns out it's not that long, and the real difficulty lies in the boss fight to come. And that's me failing to pick up the Arbiter Scroll, which I believe is an optional dungeon. Whoever designed it obviously liked the concept a lot more than probably everybody else, because it's kind of weird. It's a maze where you pick directions, and depending on the directions you pick depends on what happens. You can either get through them perfectly and not really fight much, or you can do them wrong and fight a lot of things, and there's a whole bunch of flaws. They're all pretty much identical, and at the end you'll probably get something good. I think you fight a boss and get an achievement, and I haven't done it because, what can I say, guys, this game is a fun game and I recommend it as a rental. I just didn't enjoy it when I had to spend extra time with it making the guide. And that is just a personal thing. If you like Darksiders 2, that's awesome. you've got a fantastic game with a wealth of things to do. I just burned out really quickly on it and expected a hell of a lot more. I think that is more to do with my anticipation of what they would do, as opposed to the realization of what they did do. And there's actually been an interview recently speaking to, is it like Joe Madureira or something? The guy who designed the characters, who is, I think, a creative director at Vigil, or Virgil. I'm not too sure what the name of that company is. I think it's Vigil. It's been a while since I've even thought about them. But he quit to do bigger and better things, who knows. And he's come out in an interview recently saying the things that they wanted to happen to this game that didn't really come true. And one of them was 4-player co-op, which I think that sounds amazing, man. And I'm hoping that maybe carries on to whatever they do next, because they were bought up. My mind is failing me right now to who bought this development team. And Darksiders, the license got bought and picked up, so there's obviously going to be something more. And right then when I was stepping on the bug, you heard the voice actor laughing, and the guy who voices Death is so good. He's got one of those voices that could never be a supporting character. He will always be a villain. Like, he can't be anything but a villain, because his voice is so deep and so husky and just so mean. But this sequence here, there is a puzzle coming up. You're going to be using the soul form to get into another area, and when you're in that area, there's a fight, and it kind of comes out of nowhere. It's one of those things where you expect it to just be a puzzle to solve, but it turns out it's one of these guys that you have to fight, and if you don't kill everything, they just keep interrupting you, and it makes the puzzle solving almost impossible. So it's best to just clear the area and then proceed as you normally would. But that is the end of this video, guys. I'll see you in the next one. So thanks for watching, and you take care now.